Okay, folks, today I'm with Steve Alexander, and we've spent the last, it's taken us a couple weeks, we've brought this boat up the river. Finally, after you've taken delivery on it and stuff like that, and you're getting anxious to get it home. We're still a couple of days away from the house, but what I really want to talk about, because I think there's a misconception that when people buy one of these 40-year-old trawlers, they think that everything is just going to go smooth, and I don't think they have the realization, because the reality is by the time you get this boat home, you're in this thing for $8,000 just to get it home.
Yeah,
that's pretty close to the number, right?
I think so. It's a 700-mile trip. So
yeah, it's almost a 1,000-mile trip.
Yeah, it's Gulf Shores all the way up to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we've split it up into
two different
segments.
Trips.
Some of that was due to the amount of water coming through the river systems, and
a lot of
it delayed us.
And so there's a lot of slip fees incurred from that. You don't have the, you're not paying a yearly rent, so you're paying weekly or monthly rates on slip rents. They're more expensive, a little bit more expensive. Just that alone was probably over $2,000.
That's correct. And I'm buying and renting a slip at my destination.
Still,
because they're in demand, and I had to get on a wait list. And when it came open, I had to go ahead and commit, even though I didn't have the boat deal even completed.
Right.
And I hadn't started moving it. Because if I would have waited until I got the boat up there, the slip might not have been.
Right, and you got a nice covered slip for it. That's cheap once you start. It's $360 or something.
Yeah, $360, $370. For a covered slip is a pretty good price.
And the purpose of this video is to really break these down for you, because it's not cheap moving one of these things. And then you have fuel, and I'm thinking our fuel's right at $2,000.
It's probably pretty close to that. And
by the time you top the tanks off when you get home.
Yeah, and it'll move a little bit with the prices, right?
Right.
But everything's around $5 to $6
a gallon.
And a gallon on diesel. These are diesel engines. But that's not the biggest cost. And we've talked about that, I think, in another video, where it's a cost, but it's not the biggest cost of boat ownership.
And then the initial just repairs, because there's that initial, I've bought the boat, we went out for some test rides, we found out, we said, hey, we're changing the impellers, then we found water under the engine, and we ended up having to change, you made the decision to just go ahead and change the raw water pumps, which is a great decision, because on my Lehman's, I changed all of those things, and my cooling systems, so I do go through my cooling system quite extensively. And that's got to be a budget that you put in there. And I'm not sure what you got in that, but I'm going to guess somewhere around $1,500, because I know the pumps were $600 a piece.
That's right.
Yeah.
Brand new. They weren't rebuilt.
Oh, no, we had to replace a couple of hoses.
Yep, some hoses and some exhaust hoses.
And some batteries.
Survey batteries.
Yeah, so there's probably $2,500 right there.
And some of that gets reflected in the purchase price for the boat. We won't necessarily talk about that, but you would expect, if you pay more, that you're going to have fewer of those things, but that's not the way it always works out either.
No, I don't care if it's $120,000. The problem with buying a used boat is the people that you typically are selling their used boat, they're not sticking money in the boat. They're selling it because they're done with the boat.
Right.
So trying to get them to put new batteries in, or new toilet, or new this, or new anything is almost impossible.
Yeah.
And so you're stuck with whatever was put in that boat probably 2 to 3 years back.
Right. And I think that's why a good survey is important.
Important, right.
You find out as many of those things as you can. You're not going to find them all. A few of the things that have popped up didn't come up on the survey because they're just normal wear and tear. The boat hasn't been exercised. It's atrophied. And if you don't exercise, then
I'll give this boat this. When we picked up my boat, we didn't even have a working toilet, so Pete and Mark they still curse me today.
I'm not even sure we want to go there on the video.
Anyway,
moving on.
They're out there for 4 days without even it was horrific.
Yeah.
Anyway, cat litter and a
But so there's the unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's the expected. The survey kind of gives you the expected, and then there's going to be the unexpected.
Right.
And so you got to think about that. You can't go in and say, "Oh, the survey said all this, and I fix all that," and 3 weeks later, something else.
Something else I want to touch base on is you had boating experience, prior boating experience, especially as a younger man. You were telling me about the Carolinas, but no big boat like this, twin screw and stuff like that.
Right.
So you have even paid me and James both, especially your first couple of times out on the boat. You said, "Hey, Paul, I'm coming to town. I need you. Can you guys go out with me?" And we would take you out and just let you slip the boat. And take you out in the canal, spend hours with you, just letting you drive the boat,
getting used
to the boat, the gears.
Boat.
Yep. And then on the then you paid me and James. Anyway, the labor on this, I'm going to break it down to about $2,500. Was that's about right?
I think so.
By the time the whole thing is said and done, which is cheap because usually a captain is about $450 a day. Just for you guys to know, and it's about your engineer's about $400 a day.
Right. You can get more, and you can get less.
Correct.
Certainly. You guys have been great. I highly recommend you.
But your learning curve is so much faster.
I'm a proud person too, as you know. And so there was a part of me that said, do I really need these guys? Yeah, I boated, for 10 years when I was in my 20s to 30s. I think
everybody has that opinion,
and I'm so glad that I didn't go that route, because the day when the steering ram fell out, and we had James there, because you're teaching me, so that third person was great, because he was able to isolate. You and I were looking at
so me and you were up here, and he's down there,
and he found it.
He's got temperature gauges on the engines. He's opening the engine compartment, because we don't know the boat. None of us do.
Right.
Absolutely no way.
The boat basically got started a few times a month in the slip.
Yeah, it wasn't driven.
And it wasn't really taken out and run.
Yeah.
And so there's just going to be some unexpected things. So my recommendation is, based on my experiences, is get a couple of professionals to come along with you in the early days. Not only if you don't have the experience or the recent experience to teach you, and then to have the extra hands, because when things don't go as planned, having the extra hands,
especially this is a remote part of the we got 300 miles of nothing.
Yeah, I think what sold me was I watched you guys on that Gulf crossing in that tug, and I was like, you know what? A bad day can go sideways really fast.
And if you're out there by yourself, you can figure stuff out, but things happen really fast out there too.
And if you're not familiar with the systems and all of those elements, it could get away from you pretty quick.
And that's a place you can save money. You don't need to hire professionals, but it's worth the money, especially if you don't have the experience. Then the repair bills, again, it's about $2,500. We put some batteries in here. We put some cooling pumps on here.
Yep. And we got a few more things to fix.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not over yet.
No, it's not over. And then the fuel, it's $2,000 by the time we get there. This thing gets about 2 miles to the gallon, over 2 miles to the gallon, I would say.
Yeah, we were fighting some current, but it does very well.
And we're not burning much fuel. I mean, when we were at 2,200 RPMs coming up the river in that fight of the battle, we were burning a little bit of oil, and our fuel burn was probably a little bit less. But then the last 3 or 4 days have been, 3 days have been really pleasant. 1,700 RPMs.
Up on the bigger lake impoundments, and 1,700 RPM. The oil consumption has gone away now, and I'm sure once we check the mileage, it's going to be
huge.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna be up to that 2.2, 2.6.
But you take what she gives you, right? I mean, Mother Nature's going to throw the current and the tides
and everything,
and the wind. The wind may be not as big a factor, but that's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
And so you better be prepared that
stuff like that happens.
I can't, you can't go in and say, oh, I got to figure out how to be more economical. Now, I can't, I will say, I did try to find the edge of the channel to get out of the mainstream current to get me,
speed.
4/10 of a knot more.
It worked.
It works to an extent, right? And when you're in a 10-hour, 12-hour day, a couple of tenths makes a difference.
It does.
It really does.
So anyway, but it's the reality that you're not just hopping in a boat and you don't just take it somewhere. It is going to cost you some money to get it where. So if I'm just going to use this as an example, a $50,000 trawler, and you got to move it 1,000 miles. you got a budget. I mean, you'd be lucky to get it for 10 grand. You'd be lucky to get it.
I think I was going to say 15 grand, you know, but at the time, if you
depends how much work, and it's going to need work.
It's most likely gonna, at that price, it's going to need work, and then you're going to have the unexpected along the way, and that's the whole reason we're bringing it up now before the loop in 24.
So you got years to work.
We got a year and a half to kind of burn this thing in, and hopefully not burn it down, and get all the bugs worked out, and get familiar with it, and know, hey, when it's doing this, it normally means that I've got this issue going on, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know that until you know the boat.
Yeah, and then I think the learning curve of like, you know, you could spend a ton of money on electronics, you could do this, you could do that, but you're helping us, you're helping the channel, you're helping everybody when we do this, because now we've got the AIS hooked up to the Navionics. Now you're going to take and try and get the depth sounder. If you don't, it's just another pad though. Right. You just run another pad and you have your depth on there.
Right.
And you can either pick AIS or this, because you only need AIS at certain times.
Right.
And you're doing all this for, you know, by the time we get this whole package done on this boat,
a few $100.
Yeah, your electronics, where you could spend tens of thousands.
Versus
radar, you've got that radar working like dialed in.
It's an old one.
Yeah, but they're not really going to change. I mean, today you were looking at buoys and boats.
That was amazing to me. An old Raython 40X, and I'm able to see, you know, the cans on the river.
And I've just learned that it really doesn't change. I mean, and the brand new stuff.
The resolution's a little nicer,
but it really radar's radar.
Yeah, right.
It's not where I'd put money in this boat, but the whole purpose of this video is that it did cost you $8,000 to get it to its home port, and the unexpected costs of that were probably the slip fees were a big one.
They were a big part of it,
because that was $2 grand right there, because it was just, you had to wait out weather, we had to wait out timing, and that was you know, it was unfortunate that you couldn't just jump in the boat and go. And you can, but on the rivers here, on a slow trawler, you can't just jam up that river anytime you want.
Well, another thing, so this is something I'd encourage, is do your research before you go on that next leg of the trip. Go out and take a look. And so I remember seeing something on one of the Facebook groups about the Wilson Lock.
Oh, yeah.
And they had some damage. The Corps of Engineers was in, and I remember reading something or hearing something about some scheduling windows on that lock. So called ahead and found out, and looked online, and there was actually a Corps of Engineers notice about it. They only have 3 windows a day. The lockmaster can override the rule, and we were fortunate today. We came right on. Came right on through. No, it was awesome. And that's a big boy lock.
Yeah, that's a huge lock. I'll show you guys a couple pictures. That lock was huge.
It was, and there was a lot of traffic on the up. We were like, "Where's all this traffic?" And then we get up to the top of the lock and we come out, and I mean, there's tows everywhere.
Yeah, there was.
And there was debris.
You don't expect to see it.
And there was debris everywhere they were kicking up, so we even had to dodge some of that coming out. But the point is,
and you could even nick a prop coming up, because there's no guarantee. You can have a professional captain. He should keep it off the ground, but he could hit a log easily and nick a prop, and that could be another additional.
Think about the delay, right? So I was kind of equating this to the delays that we had with the river and the flooding and the slip and the dock fees. What happens if I don't read that notice? What happens if we cruise right on up there
and you can't get through for a week
they hold
or a
us
month.
For 3 days or a week or 2 weeks? Because the lockmaster said we got traffic, 2 years worth of traffic. That's all queued up.
Yes.
Now, it's not sitting at the lock today, but they know it's coming down the river system, and it's all going to be there, so the windows are really tight.
They are.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just the whole package. You got to really think about the whole package. And in today's era, it's expensive. You know what I'm saying? It's not cheap, and it's just something you got to think about. And once you make that purchase price, and if you're moving a boat from Florida and you're trying to get it up this river system, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would preach. I don't think you bought the boat horribly far away. You really wouldn't want to go much further away, though.
Right,
you really didn't want to, because
I think about some people that will buy a boat on the West Coast and bring it, to the Gulf or to the
trailer.
East Coast. And they'll either put it on a container ship that hauls yachts, or they'll do this or that.
It's $8 a foot.
And I'm thinking, wow, you know, I mean, the bargain goes away when you start talking about doing that, right?
So, and the reality is, and when this video is not about the expenses of getting the boat ready for the loop, that's a whole nother video.
Right.
But the actual expenses of getting it from Gulf Shores, Alabama, up here to Chattanooga, all in, and that's the repairs that needed, the immediate repairs, because one of the battery systems needed to be replaced.
Right.
The raw water pumps.
Yeah.
The fuel for the boat, groceries. You got to feed us.
Oh yeah, and you guys.
You don't want to. You don't want to.
You guys eat. Of course, I do too, as you can tell. So just go in eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of it though, because I can tell you, it's worth it.
Yeah,
I mean, having my wife on the last 3-4 days, with you guys on the few days before, the learning, but just seeing this earth from a different perspective. Oh yeah, you were unbelievable,
and you were in heaven the entire time.
Oh yeah.
If you went home and then that was it, it'd
been worth it.
Even today, we were both joking a little bit about, Paul, can you believe we're not in the cubicle?
Yeah.
And it was just
haven't done corporate jobs and those things.
And it was like, here we are. Can you believe this? We're just both looking at each other. And we're at just a beautiful part of the river coming down here to Joe Wheeler State Park.
And I had, in my younger days, I had experience on the estuaries and the intercoastal. I've done offshore charters, Gulf Stream. I've done that stuff.
Yeah, right.
And it's still, fascinating. It's enjoyable. Don't miss out on the enjoyment of it.
I could be in solitude. I can sit up here at my helm here, and I don't know what it is or why it is, but I don't want to miss anything. My eyes are wide open. I'm trying to look for the eagle with the grizzly bear, with the gator.
Fighting the gator. Haven't found that yet. I know you want that million hits on YouTube,
but
just haven't been able to find them all together.
But I'm looking Bigfoot, anything, big guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I always enjoy it. I love being on the boat. I've loved the whole experience with you. We'll be friends the rest of our lives probably. We joke around. We almost act like brothers now. I mean, we do. Great. We've had a good time.
And I didn't know you before I saw some of your videos on YouTube. Got to know you through the broker process and the buying.
Yeah.
Got to know you better through getting ready, and then even better hiring you to come with. And so there's going to be more in the future.
Yeah, right.
And the road doesn't end here.
No, it doesn't, because you'll even come out on because you're such a technical guy. I'll have clients that will pay you to come out and put the systems together on their boats. Yeah. And Jim may be one of them, and I'm hoping you can join us. And you will, because you can't take that technical. I mean, that's what you did for a living, so it's incredible. So it's not going to end here. Yeah. We'll probably be best friends the rest of our lives. We text and joke around all the time.
We do, yeah.
And we do have a good time. It's part of it.
You got to have fun.
You do.
I mean, there's times where it's tense, and things aren't going as you planned. And
we're both MFing each other at one of our docks.
Your boat that was a sugar pile suddenly becomes some other kind of a pile, right? And you feel like you're just chasing your tail. But that's part of it.
Yeah, it is.
And so you got to go into it knowing that and expecting that. But at the end of the day, enjoy it.
Yeah, right.
Right?
And
because life's too short.
It really is.
No regrets.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm going to end this video by no regrets. And just make sure that you have that in your budget, that it does cost money to move the boat after you've made the purchase. And, and be real with your budget. You have to be.
Yeah, don't kid yourself.
Don't kid yourself. Anyway, peace out. Remember, live life with no regret. I do. I think Steve does too.
I still do. and will.
Make sure you live life with no regret. Paul Bates, Steve Alexander. Thank you.